Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, where it's all about creating the life you want, the business you want, and making a real difference. Join us in unlocking the code to true success. And now your host, Tony Caliendo, Master Coach with reTHINK Coaching.
Welcome to the Mindset Architect Podcast, episode number 66. I'm Tony Caliendo, Master Coach here at reTHINK Coaching, and I want to thank you for being here today. And as always, time is our most valuable gift, and the fact that you're sharing some of your time with me truly does mean a great deal. So if you're watching this on our YouTube channel and you're seeing me live, you're seeing some Christmas decorations up behind me. Now, it makes perfect sense if you're watching this according to our schedule of when these podcast drop. But if you're watching this in July, you may be wondering, what the heck is this guy doing? But anyway, it is the holiday season. And, as we're kind of wrapping up the year, and I love this time of year for a lot of reasons. It's a time to reflect on all the great things that we did and to look back on all of the wins and the opportunities. And as we're kind of winding things down, we have a lot of holidays and traditions and things that we all get to do. And the one thing that I want to spend some time on right now as we're reflecting and doing business plans and taking a look at what we want to do differently for the upcoming year is ask you this question that one of my coaches asked me, which I thought was really a brilliant question. And that was, what you're supposed to do, right? So I think we all know exactly what we need to do to get to our goal. Are you equally aware of what you are not supposed to do or not to-do list? And I sat with that for a while and I thought, it was really a powerful question because a lot of times we find ourselves doing what's actually on our not to-do list. And it becomes a habit or it becomes habitual. We don't even notice that it's happening. We just are falling into our behavioral patterns, right? 92% about what we do as human beings is conditioned habitual behavior. Not saying that it's stellar, healthy, phenomenal. It's just our conditioned habitual behavior. So you might find yourself sliding into the not to-do list versus staying on the to-do list. So I'm going to share with you an awareness I had probably, it's been a while. And it was when I did an inventory of my week, of my day. And this was at the recommendation of one of my coaches as well, was just to sit and reflect upon what am I really doing throughout the day versus what do I think that I'm doing? And I did, it took some discipline. I set a reminder to go off every 15 minutes and just to write down what I was doing and compare it to what my calendar or my to-do list said that I needed to be doing for the day. And it was really, really, really eye-opening because I found myself doing a lot of things that were somewhat would make me feel good, yet at the end of the day were not healthy for the forward progression of my dreams and my business. And one of the things that really jumped out at me was the ridiculous amount of time that I was going back and forth between Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and checking on how posts were doing and making comments and doing a lot of activity that I discovered wasn't really necessary. Now, if you really want to shock yourself, take a look at your screen time. That will shock you into reality. But I found a lot of things that I was doing that just really wasn't serving me well. Social media was number one. Number two was getting distracted in my emails and trying to respond to them as quickly as I could. I felt like I needed to answer immediately. Same thing with text messages. But I really came to the realization that I was giving time to the things that should be on my not to-do list more than I was giving airtime to my to-do list. And focusing and learning that was a huge gift. I'm really committed as a human being, as someone who owns a business and people that rely upon me to provide the space of the life that we've chosen to live and the business that we've chosen to run. And for those that work with us, the space that we promised them in partnering with us. And when you look at that through that lens, you realize that our time that I talked about first thing is our most valuable asset, but most of us don't treat it with a lot of respect. We fill our day with a bunch of the not to-dos because it maybe feels good. It's a distraction from some of the activities that may not be so sexy or fun, lead generation or lead follow-up, because we are chasing some type of distraction or something that we want to do differently. So first thing I would say for you to do is to, if you want to get granular like I did, monitor what you do on the daily every 15 to 30 minutes and just see what you're doing. See how much time you're giving away to that not to do item versus your to do item, and spend some time really learning from that. So that's the number one thing that I would say that we need to do. Number two is go ahead and write out the not to do list. Go ahead and write it out. I mean, my not to do is Facebook, texting, emailing, taking personal phone calls at times that I need to be doing my critical activities. My not to do list was actually longer than I thought it would be. And it was what was gaining and getting the majority of my attention. That was really surprising and somewhat disappointing. Yet, if I hadn't taken the time to learn that, I'd still be doing it. So number one, I would say spend some time looking at what you're doing and keeping track of that, and then identifying, is that on my not to do or is that on my to do? And break it down and then restructure. That's the coolest thing about what I did was I was able to restructure my day and my calendar and my awareness around the key activities. So that's really the number two thing that I'm going to invite you to do. Once you have your not to do and your to-do list, our to-do list can still be a list that doesn't serve us in the highest way possible unless we prioritize it or we identify what the number one thing that we should be doing, our primary focus area is, and move that to the top of the list and have it at the top of the list every single day. And I know I know my real estate clients are going to say, yeah, but. And I want you to stop thinking that and say, yes, this is the one thing. And everything else will take care of itself or has the time on my schedule that I can get to. But my number one focus area, if I'm going to hit my goal, is X. And I will tell you, it's really pretty simple. If you're an entrepreneur and you're running a business and you're responsible for generating income, your number one thing is most likely going to be to generate leads, to generate sales, to generate your income. Once we clear the path of the not to-dos and we prioritize the to-do and come up with that one focus area, which sounds really incredibly simple. You're like, well, that's not teaching me anything. It may not be teaching you anything, yet it keeps circling back to, and you've probably heard this from a lot of coaches, a lot of online professionals, a lot of training classes that you've been in, that lead generation is your number one thing. Sales is your number one thing. Converting calls is your number one thing. It's just the obvious, yet we tend to shove it down on our focus area of what we must do. So really simplify it. What's the one activity that's going to move the needle? What's the one activity that's going to get me to goal? What's the one activity that drives the bus, that is the fuel for the engine, and start giving that attention. The other thing that you're going to experience once you do this, and I'm telling you this because I did, is resistance. You're going to experience resistance because you're asking your mind to think differently. You're asking your mind to give up some of those other things that it might be addicted to, or that were fun distractions, or that made you feel like you were doing something because you could check it off a list, even though it wasn't something that was moving your business forward. So resistance, I love to say, is really the eye or the keys to success. If you went through your not to do and your to-do list and you had an epiphany that the one thing that you should be focused on was this, you're resisting doing it, that's the answer. That's the answer. 9 times out of 10, if I talk to a client and I ask them, what's the number one thing that you're resisting right now in your business? It is always, well, nothing's 100%, yet it's a pretty high percentage that the one thing that they're resisting is the thing that they need to do the most. It's just that simple. And there's a lot of reasons, I think, for it. Some of it's belief, some of it's mindset, some of it is a worthiness factor. Yet a lot of it is because we've gotten addicted to the chemical release or the way that we feel when we do some of the not to do items. And our body treats it almost like a drug, looking for a hit of that. So when you rearrange your day and your schedule and you identify your focus area and you really focus on your to-do list, you're going to feel some resistance. And that's okay. Pay attention to it because that really is your key factor to success. So the other items, I made a quick mention of your body gets a little addicted to it. There's some great work by Dr. Joe Dispenza that I love, where he talks about behaviors that release a chemical in your brain, dopamine or whatever it is that gets released, the feel-good hormone or the dread hormone, whatever it is for you, that you condition your body to look for that. And when your mind doesn't experience that, it's going to create the distraction. It's going to create the resistance. So I'll be honest again. Social media for me was a bit of that drug. It was a bit of the pure escape, and there was some humor and there was some comparison games going on, yet my body was getting accustomed to that hit. And that was a tough habit for me to break because social media is part of my lead generation. I just wasn't using it as that. I was hiding behind it because my brain was looking for, my mind was looking for that chemical release that I got when I went down the bunny trail of social media and saw some funny things, saw some things that I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe that person posted it. But it was what my brain was looking for in the moment. So pay attention to all of that. The resistance will come in a form of protection, but it's really disarming you from the activity that you need to be doing. The other thing that I'm going to say is, it's going to be a new behavior for some of us to focus heavily on the one activity that we might be resisting the most, or the one activity that we don't find to be as much fun as Facebook. And I want you to do two things to help yourself get through that. Number one, build in some fun. I'm all about time blocking. I'm all about owning our time. I'm all about protecting that one focus area. Yet I also need that if I don't have some fun in my day, it just doesn't work for me. So build in some fun or some rewards. So it might be, hey, I'm going to give myself 30 minutes free reign on social media after lunch. Because when I do this, this, and this, then I know I've achieved my big ticket item and I can go blow off some steam. Might go play pickleball, might run to the gym, might do a hobby or a craft, a jigsaw puzzle, whatever it is, build in some time for you to reward yourself for doing the heavy lifting and that commitment to that one thing. The other thing that has worked for me really well is my one thing is much like my real estate agent's one thing. It's lead generation and lead follow-up. It's lead generation and lead follow-up. That's my one thing. That's the engine that drives my business. And what I also know about myself is it's really difficult for me to do an activity for an extended period of time. So there's a lot of thought around lead generation in the real estate world that you need to block 2 hours to do it. It needs to be first thing in the morning. There's some suggestions out there that have somewhat slipped into law. And once I gave myself permission that that didn't have to be me and I could figure out a different way to do it, it was a huge win. I do this technique called the Pomodoro technique, which is for someone like myself who's wears a lot of hats and maybe has a shorter attention span. This is where I do a 20-minute sprint and a 5-minute break, and a 20-minute sprint and a 5-minute break. And I don't care what I do on that 5 minutes. It could be get a cup of coffee. It could be walk outside and get a breath of fresh air. It could be go talk to one of my coaches, whatever I want it to be. But when I do my time blocking for my lead gen, my lead follow-up, I do it in chunks of 20. And it's really helped me tremendously stay engaged in the one thing. I just know it's just a 20-minute sprint, and then I'm going to get a 5-minute reward. And then it's a 20-minute sprint, and I'm going to get a 5-minute reward. Here's what's really interesting about this. Normally, I would have blocked 2 hours to do this activity because it's important. And I would call it a dread sprint, where it's like, oh my God, 2 hours of doing the same thing over and over. And I would measure what I was getting done. Once I started to implement the Pomodoro effect, what I found out was after maybe 3 or 4 of these 20-minute runs, I was getting more done than when I gave myself 2 hours. And I do firmly believe it was because I knew I had a beginning and an end. And you have 20 minutes to get this done. That's it. It doesn't allow for procrastination. It doesn't allow for putting off what you know needs to get done. It's just a 20-minute little run. That's it. So I found it very fascinating that by breaking it down into these 20-minute chunks with the 5-minute break, my 2 hours actually shrank to about an hour 15. I was getting more done in that amount of time than my 2-hour commitment. So that is a great tool if you're struggling. And I just use my phone. There's you can go on Amazon and find all kinds of timers that you can buy for the Pomodoro technique. And honestly, I just use my phone. I set a 20-minute timer, and then I set a 5-minute timer, 20-minute timer, 5-minute timer. And it keeps me on track. So that's it. That's how I do it. That does tie into another thing that I want to talk about for this really getting focused on your to-do item or items is to time block. The reason the 20 minutes works so well is there is a universal law called work expands to the time allowed. And I've said this before. Best example is like today, I'm getting ready to get on a plane this afternoon. I know I have X amount of time to get all of the things on my to-do list done. I don't have time to mess around. I don't. I know I've only got X amount of time, and I am about the most efficient human being today that I could possibly be because I'm getting ready to leave for a week for the holiday. And I know if I don't get some things done here in my home office, they're not going to happen. And I want to enjoy my family. So between Pomodoro and time blocking, I promise you, you just get more done. It is not giving up your freedom and flexibility when you think about time blocking. It's just not. It's about creating those windows that you must get things done in that amount of time. And your brain knows it's got a quick end time coming. Let's get it done versus I got all day. So like I know tonight at 6 o'clock, I'm getting on the plane and that's it. We're getting on and we're going. I can't delay it. I pushed the time for takeoff the latest that I possibly can to get to my destination at a realistic time. So it has created the amount of time and space that I have to do the work. So in summary, it's really important to pay attention to what you're doing and to categorize it as this should probably go into my not to-do list and this should go in my to-do. And some of the stuff that we might find in that not to-do list might be things like beat myself up, judge myself, spend time comparing to others to put myself down versus looking at what's potential. So if you do find some of the things on your not to-do list that we need to correct, mindset work, journaling, affirmations, whatever that might be, pay attention to everything that's on there because we're going to find the one primary thing we need to do and give it our number one attention. But that doesn't mean there's not other things for us to pay attention to throughout our day, week, month, and quarter. So really look at that not to do list. The thing that I find that shows up the most often is judging, criticizing, putting ourselves down, negative self-talk. A lot of that's going to show up on the not to-do list that I want you to be aware of. So it's not just, I got on social media. Pay attention to your thoughts as you go out throughout the day of what thoughts you're having that are not serving you and get them off of that list. Some exercises I've shared with you in other podcasts that you can use to flip those thoughts around, but it's really important. So focus on what you need to do. Give yourself permission to do it in a way that works for you. For me, it's 20-minute blocks. If I had to do 2 hours, it's not going to work. I'm just telling you, it's not going to work. 20-minute blocks. Pay attention to what you're resisting. That is the number one indicator to what you really need to do. The thing you're resisting the most is most likely the thing that has the most juice in it for your forward movement. Build in some fun. You don't have to build in a couple rewards throughout the day to reward you for doing the hard work. Growing and running a business, it's not easy. If you've got 7-figure aspirations, you need 7-figure behaviors. And along with that, you need to reward yourself on occasion. Now, if I look at your schedule and you've got more reward than work, we might have a problem. So spend some time rewarding yourself, pay attention to your time blocking, really look at it that it is the key to your freedom and flexibility. It will give you that time that you so desperately want with your family and friends. It will make it a reality versus sitting with your laptop on your lap at 7 o'clock at night with your family because you didn't time block and you didn't protect your time during the day and you still got really important stuff to get done. So I love the concept of what's on your not to-do list that you're doing and what's on your to-do list that needs to be prioritized and rearranged. And resisting. That's what I want to share with you today. So as we move into the holiday, this is a good time for reflection. This is a good time for self-observation. This is a good time to identify some of these things because we're starting a new year. We are starting a new year, and I would love to see you all start it with the right things on the list of things to do versus spending the majority of your time on the not to do side. As always, team, if you got a question, just reach out to me, Tony at Rethink Coaching. I will be more than happy to answer any questions you have, Tony at rethinkcoaching.com. If you go to our website, rethinkcoaching.com, there's a box you can fill out for a free 1-hour strategy call, coaching call with me. It's no cost. We'll talk about whatever it is you need to talk about. If you need some help working through this or anything else, just reach out. My goal in life is to help as many people as I can achieve the dreams that they have. So please feel free to use me as a resource. You can always find me on all of the social media platforms. I'm pretty easy to find if you just Google my name. All right, team, go make it a great week. If you're celebrating a holiday this week, go enjoy it. Be present. Enjoy the time with your friends, family, or just yourself. Take care. We'll see you next week. If you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you must come check out the Mindset Architect Group Coaching Program. It's our monthly program where we explore the power of your mindset, help you identify what you truly want in business and life, and then help you reach those goals. Come check us out at rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. That's rethinkcoaching.com/group-program. We'll see you there.